Anyway, we're talking about The Boys, season 1 and season 2 up to episode 3. So I guess so how do you want to do this? Do you want to start by just segmenting off season 1, giving our thoughts and recaps on that, and then like moving on to season 2 as a separate thing? Or
well, first we're going to play a game that's not related.
What? Okay.
I wanted to play a game because I thought it would be fun to like liven us up early on into the episode. Mm-hmm. And it's almost Halloween time and I love the fall. So I've come up with a game that I took from a thumbnail I saw on YouTube. And I'm going to explain 3 plots to you. And you have to pick out which one is the fake Disney Channel original Halloween movie.
Okay. I'm definitely qualified. And prepared for this.
I love Disney Channel Halloween movies. Okay, so the first one is about a girl who wasn't aware that she was born into a coven of witches. Her mom has moved to Earth from X place, and she was like, I'm here now, I want to blend in, I'm going to marry an earthling human person, and we're going to have normal kids and raise them the normal way. And eventually the kids find out that weird things happen around them, and they are witches. So the only family member that they really know that knows about this secret is their grandmother. And their grandmother comes and like drops subtle hints like, hey, you guys have magic powers or whatever. And then they find out. So they all go to their grandma's house in the X land, and the family has to save the day with their super secret magic powers that they now embrace, because that's the message of the story. Embrace who you are naturally or something. For movie number 2, there are a gaggle of kids, all of different ethnicities, I guess, like a goblin and a I was going to say hairdresser, a goblin, a witch, a warlock, and a ghost who is half kid, half ghost. Like he's a ghost sometimes, you know? And then they go to like a haunted high school. And these kids are like the outsider kids because they're the most eccentric out of the other ones. And although the witch is like, there's a witch that's like the cool girls are witches. This specific witch has a lot of power. And she doesn't necessarily know how to control it, so she's not cool because she doesn't know how to like master her gift. She's not zen. So then they just come together and embrace each other. They defeat the bully, which is a possessed football jock kind of guy, but he's also like a ghoul, one of those things with one eye.
Cyclops.
Sure. And he gets possessed by a bad spirit that comes and invades the town.
That was
so
number
does
2.
the principal. What?
That was number 2.
Yeah, and the geeky kids fixed that one.
Okay.
And then number 3 is a classic. Okay, so there's this thing called the darkness, and the darkness is eating up a town that's in a faraway land. So these 2 girls who don't know each other have to come together and use their powers that they don't know they have in the beginning of the story, like most stories. They find each other, their little servants, I guess, come find them on Earth. They watch over them on Earth, and they come together and they unite the 2 girls and like, hey, you guys need to come with us to this land and defeat the darkness, because you don't know this, but you're actually sisters and you're the princesses of this place, but you were sent to Earth because you were adopted because your dad died in some mystical way. And then comes to find out that the darkness that the girls end up defeating is their stepfather/uncle, and they save their mother. Okay, which one was fake?
Okay, well, I know that number 3 is definitely real because you prefaced it by calling it a classic.
Or was that a trick?
It was not a trick. I know it was not a trick.
It could have been a trick.
No, I'm ruling out number 3 right away. So that just leaves number 2 and number 1. I felt like number 2 was very specific and very Disney Channel original movie in the plot that it takes place in the school with a bunch of kids that are ragtag, misadventured. So I'm gonna go with number 1 is the fake plot.
No.
Really?
I made number 2 up.
Ah, shoot.
But Disney can take it if they pay me money. Number 1 is Halloween Town, and number 3 was Twitches. I love Halloween Town.
Okay, I should have seen that coming. You talk about Halloween, but where do you want to start off?
Let's talk about feelings that you got from season 1. I'm gonna talk about it first. So, like, what I liked about the show, because you didn't ask me.
Mm-hmm. What do you like about the show?
I like that the show works as like a curtain to the back door of like production, of how like things work in the industry. Everything is like, I don't want to say fake, but it's pretty manufactured.
You mean like the film industry specifically? Or?
Film, anybody that needs like a PR agent or anything like that. So anybody who has like a big name. So I don't want to just say film because it could work for, I'd have to imagine that people who are like running big companies or who are the face of something have to go through the same things. Like people who need the public to be on their side for their company to thrive. Like they have like a team of people behind them, whether it's like YouTubers and they have like lawyers and a publicist and a marketer and an agent and managers, and they have like this whole slew of people that they have to have on their team to help them succeed throughout the industry, or like actors and everything. I like that it gives you the access to seeing things. Like there is one prop in an episode, I don't remember what it was. Something was given to I think Starlight or something, and it was a literal call sheet. I couldn't make out what the call sheet was for. Like I didn't know if they made a call sheet for whatever she was working, or if they literally just took the call sheet from that episode. But like her prop, that she was reading something and it was like supposed to be revelation, like a revelation to something. I don't remember what it was for, but it was in season 1 and it was a call sheet. And I was like, for people who don't work on sets or who haven't worked on a set ever, they wouldn't know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. I thought that was funny. They have a lot of subtle things in there.
Just like the subtle like things is like, oh, this is like how celebrities are kind of jerks. Or
I'm not saying like that celebrities are jerks. I'm just saying that like things that you would see on TV and it seems so one-sided, or it seems like it's easy to do or be or whatever, it normally has a group of people behind it that make it look easy. And there's a lot of subtleties towards the hinting that other people, well, it's not really subtle, but there's a lot of things that like point out, oh, you might have thought that I don't know, making a chicken for a TV show or a cooking show is easy, but there's like people that like prep the chicken, cook the chicken, prep the menu. Like it's like a whole week and a half or 2-3 week project that's going into this one 15-minute clip for like the Today Show or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like a backdoor into the production.
Yeah, I feel like it's not something people think about, like how much work actually goes into like seeing like even the tiniest things.
Do you think that's for the better or for the worse? Because I feel like the show gives a negative connotation to seeing everything that goes on behind the scenes, and it makes it feel like everything's like disingenuous on top. Like
it is disingenuous. It's TV. It's all marketing.
Well, yeah, I mean we're aware of this, but I'm saying like it the feeling it elicits when watching The Boys, and how you see the personalities of the celebrities completely mismatch their brand. You know?
I mean, if you even step outside of like this show, I can't imagine that like Trump's life is too far away from this show. I bet he has like a publicist or somebody who works for like, not even like him in the best interest as a president, but like that works for the company, like Trump Enterprises or whatever he owns, that works for his company, that's like playing damage control all the time for his company. That person, either if they're not following him, then they're following Ivanka or DJ TJ or whatever. Like there's somebody that's like following these people around.
DJ TJ?
Donald John Trump Jr. DJ TJ. If you're watching, subscribe.
Back to the recap. Okay, so you like how it's like a backdoor to
yeah, because like I feel like a lot of that stuff is never represented, and I kind of felt like I was represented as someone who worked in the behind the scenes, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Even though that you didn't see, nobody showed like what I specifically did, that I saw. Yeah, but it's so cool.
I really like how the show, like you said, it does give a kind of like a backdoor to how these productions work.
Right.
But like it's also it combines that with the fantasy like elements you'd get with a DC or just like any superhero like story.
Right.
And it kind of just tears it all down into this like cynical mess
Because
that leaves you empty and sad.
You know what it's like? It's like, okay, so because these people actually do have the powers that they're saying they have.
Yeah, that's not like fake at all. It's just saying that given that like whole premise, how they have these real powers, they completely just fall into whatever human sins, or whatever human greed that would not be naturally present.
Because they are humans.
Yeah.
They're humans who were injected with a secret compound that made them into like these things. So they would have flaws in general because humans are flawed creatures. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why I don't like the concept of them being gods.
Well, they're not gods though. They're just feel like
Homelander only says that the gods thing, I think, to him and his son. He says we are gods. And I think
also
those
Stillwell
two
does too.
Huh?
Stillwell does too. The CEO lady.
No. I'm talking about Homelander specifically. Okay. And the reason I specify Homelander is because he and his son, like they say that everybody else has like records of being injected with Compound V. The only person who didn't was Homelander, and nobody knew that his son existed. So it would make sense for his son to not have that too. But I doubt they would come up to Rebecca, I think, and be like, hey, can we inject your baby with the same stuff that made this rapist, like, whatever. Like, I don't think she would say yes. That's my point. I think she would say no. So, like, those two could be, like, the only two people who legitimately have this weird trait, you know?
What, the trait as in their powers?
Yeah, like, they could legitimately be, like, the mutated people. Well,
Homelander, he definitely was injected with, I feel like he was definitely injected with Compound V.
Well, the only reason I say
like, he is a test tube baby.
Yeah. Which means that he could have been derived from the compound. The only reason I say that he's not is because they specifically go out of their way to say that he's the only person who does not have records of being injected.
That's interesting. Because that can be entirely possible, but like, how do you think he would exist since the whole premise?
No. I definitely think that he was made in a lab. I just don't know if he was like a baby, like the first ever baby that they injected with Compound V.
Right. Well, that's what I thought it was.
I mean, it's possible, but I don't know. And then his son, I think, is interesting to be the first kid of all the people who have ever had sex with superheroes to be the first kid that was born with superpowers.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
Like a natural birth or superhero birth.
But most of the people who have.
Actually, everyone.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. No, they said like half people knew. Because a lot of them were like 13, they said. 9 to 13. Like, you definitely remember being injected with this compound that hurts when you're 9.
Well, I guess publicly speaking, they're all born with it.
That's another thing that bothered me is that, like, let's say like let's say 10% of the community is super and 90% aren't. That means that Vought reached out to 10% of the people who said yes to allowing them to inject the baby with Compound V.
Yeah, these are bad parents.
But that means that they had to talk to good parents who said no. Or at least parents who didn't want the fame or didn't want the attention or didn't want anything like that to happen to their kid. They said no. Which means that those people know to some extent that Compound V exists. I don't believe, even in this fictional world, that everybody they asked about Compound V said yes. And then on top of that, I don't believe that this was as big of a secret. I don't see any reasonable way this could be as big of a secret as Vought wanted it to be. They're like, oh, don't tell anybody. And they said that it was rumored to have existed in the first couple episodes. Like, the Congress people were saying that. So, like, it was rumored in Congress. But what I'm saying is, like, I feel like people know. Maybe it was something that people just didn't say, like the JFK assassination. But people
here's the
know.
thing. No one knows what... I'm not going to stay away from that. But
Starlight's mom knew. And
well, she did know, but she went through it.
Full-blown kids. I know, which means that they've had to, let's say there's like 10 Starlight's moms, and they ask all of them. One of those people would say no. Like, just for circumstances,
that's what I'm saying.
Outside, like, somebody had to say no.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you lead with, "Oh, would you like me to make your kid a superhero?" and then they'll probably say yes. Then they'll probably, like, down the line, they'll probably, like, reveal, "Oh, we're actually drugging up your babies." But after the point of, like, no return of agreeing.
Oh, like, you already knew? I mean, like, they started without you knowing. But how else would it be? Like, oh, your baby was born with this gift. I don't know. No, I don't know. It's just all weird.
I think it's like, if you're in the know, then you probably know. Like that one congressman in the first episode who got, like, offed because he, like, let them know, tried to blackmail them with the knowledge of Compound V. But I feel like, as far as the public knows, let's say what you're saying of they go up to these people and they say, "Oh, can we drug your babies?" or whatever. Like, you know, however the process goes, which they haven't revealed, and I'm curious to know how that really happens. Let's say that these people say no, and then I imagine that's because Vought is like one of these super corporations that can't be touched. They can probably just off you like a mafia if you don't go along with what they're saying. So they probably just, like, bully these people into keeping it quiet.
See, I was thinking more of like a settlement.
Or yeah, something like settlement. Well, actually, that's something that goes back to the first episode of the show where, you know, Robin, Hughie's girlfriend, gets killed.
Oh, right.
And then they try to force him to sign an agreement saying, "Hey, you don't talk about how one of our heroes totally just murdered your girlfriend,"
right.
and for no reason. But
let me just say that Hughie ripping up that $45,000 check, even though I know it wasn't a real check because it's a show, and I know that, but it still hurt me.
In the context of the show, it was absolutely real. It's like, you didn't have to do that, buddy.
I know. I was like, I've seen where you live. You obviously could have, like, used that $45,000 to help your dad out.
Yeah. Which, by the way, the dad is played by Simon Pegg, and
I know.
I love that. I just love that he exists in the show. But yeah, going back to the boys, I want to talk about Billy, because I feel like he's a super, like, you know how you have your main protagonist who's like Hughie, I believe, like we see the show through his eyes for the most part. Even though you get the perspectives of different people, including Homelander, which is interesting because he's the villain. You get scenes where you just see everything through his perspective.
But I've never sympathized with Homelander.
No, and I don't think you're supposed to.
Oh, okay.
But, like, so you have Hughie, who is the person who we relate to and we see through his eyes. But then you have Billy, who I believe is the main driving force of this series.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. He's the catalyst for sure.
And he's also probably the top billed actor with Carl Urban playing him. So you get the established, like, name along with the up-and-coming person who is, like, the real protagonist of the show.
Yeah, the Hugh Jackman ripoff.
He does look a lot like Hugh Jackman in the show, just because of the facial hair and the accent and all that stuff.
Hugh Jackman's Australian.
Yeah, is he play a Brit in the show, right?
Who?
Carl Urban.
Yeah, he's British.
Okay. But yeah, he's like the main driving force of the show, and I don't think he's like really. He's not relatable, even though you sympathize with his struggle. But he also does things where you kind of like, I don't know if that's like right. Like there's this like give and take where you like him at some points and then you like dislike him at other points because of the way he acts, and he kind of like walks this line that I think makes him an interesting character.
Yeah, he's definitely an interesting character. I don't like him ever.
There's no like cheeky part to it where you're like, okay, I kind of like you a little bit because you're.
No, he's a jerk.
He is definitely a jerk. Like in real life, I would hate him, but just as a character in a show, especially in the first episode where like he was just kind of trying to be normal like anyone else would be, and he's like, "No, come on, you want to go on this adventure with me for a little bit," until he uses him and he doesn't want him anymore, but then he gets dragged into it.
I think the reason I don't like him is that he like so clearly is just written as danger, and he started off in the show as like a lie. So it's like automatically I was just like, I can't trust you. And like I knew exactly that. I knew that he wasn't telling the truth because he was like, I'm a Fed, and he had like a British accent. And I'm not saying that he didn't have American civilization, but in order to be a actual Fed in America, you have to be an American. Well, so it just seems wrong. Like
actually, I didn't know about that. But
I googled it because I was like, can foreigners be American agents, American federal agents? And they're like, no, you have to be a naturalized American citizen.
I just want to say, from the moment he said in the first episode, "I'm a Fed,"
I knew.
No one. I don't think anyone thought he was a real Fed.
But he does have CIA connections, which is more than I thought he would have.
Yeah.
For sure.
In his backstory, is he actually like he is part of this group of people who seems to have had some like specialized training, for like a government agency. So did he actually work in a government agency in the past before he got roped into this, or?
See, I don't know. I kind of feel like he worked with the CIA in the past. I didn't read the comics, but I read synopsis of the characters from the comics, and it said that he's like I guess like a private investigator. Like he's an independent contractor. So like it seems more like they would have like agents, specific people from the CIA or whatever would hire him, knowing that he's not trained like agents, and they would plant him in places and have him do things with his mannerisms, so that way he wouldn't tip off people because he's not trained to be an agent, so he won't act like an agent. He'll just do whatever he's doing to be his mission, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know who he is?
What?
He's the foil to like Stormfront. Yeah.
Okay. The newer hero.
Yeah, it's in season 2. We didn't get there. I literally just thought about it.
Billy Butcher's the foil? How
At
so?
least season 1 Billy Butcher.
Okay, how so?
Because he's like the person that like the most out of the first opening cast to come in and just like stir things up. Like he comes in and he's like unconventional for the role that he's supposed to be in. He takes charge and he's like, at first I thought he was gonna be like the foil to Homelander, but it didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
So like if Stormfront or whatever is going to end up eventually replacing Homelander, it would make sense for her to be the more clear foil to Billy. So she comes in and she acts more like him than Homelander ever did, where she's actually maybe too honest, but there's still something really sketchy about her. Like she's not saying everything. There's definitely something that she's hiding. She doesn't trust the people that are working with her, but like she is willing to extend a hand because she knows she needs them, but like that's where it ends. You know what I mean? I could be like I've only seen her in like really one episode, so I don't actually know.
No, but it makes a lot of sense. Like they do share a lot of similar traits for the groups that they do partake in.
Right.
Like they're both that character who just kind of like tells it like it. Well, not really, because they lie too, but they both say exactly what they're feeling, and they're very crass in their and like really kind of mess it up for whoever is also in their group. Like they get them all in situations that probably they wouldn't like.
Yeah, and then they have like this thing like, yeah, it's all messed up, but I'm gonna take charge and fix it, and then you're all gonna owe me, kind of energy. Particularly
like Billy, because she's a villain, so you'd expect like.
Who? So you just think the 7 are villains in general?
I mean, no, because Starlight's obviously the exception to that.
I don't see them as villains.
I see them as villains that have good reasons to be villains. Like, or really whatever you want to say. Like, on the spectrum, they're definitely more on the evil side, but they allow you to see a window into who they are as characters to kind of know why they got there, you know? So you can somewhat sympathize with their position.
Wait, no. This is interesting. So do you see the 7 and Vought as the same entity?
No. I see them as products of Vought.
So you see them as like an extension of Vought.
Yeah.
Like to the point where like they are just Vaught's mouthpiece. So you see them how like Stormfront sees them in the beginning, like a Vought spy, like Vought is the candy machine and the 7 are the claw. Like they're all one thing working together.
Pretty much. Well, they're all employees of Vought.
Okay. That's interesting. I didn't get that impression.
They're all their products. Like,
I got that.
Yeah, like which it's kind of funny. Like going back to the Edgar, like what Edgar said in season 2, where they're not really a superhero company. Edgar's like the head of Vought. He's the head honcho. He is played by Giancarlo Esposito. Anyway, so it goes back to what he said to Homelander in season 2, where they're not a superhero company. They're actually a pharmaceutical company that produces superheroes.
Yeah, he said that, and I was like, "Oh, that's like a big pharma joke."
Which is I find interesting because it kind of it means they don't have to rely on them, which is what I feel like is the impression that the heroes get. Like they rely on us to make their money, but they really don't, because they can produce any one of you at any time.
Yeah, yes.
Taylor, really?
I think it was interesting. I was like, that's a very honest thing for him to say, that we're a pharmaceutical company that produces superheroes. He was very honest with Homelander in that whole scene. The point of the conversation was to tell Homelander that they don't actually need him and that you're wrong. What you think is wrong.
Which I think is the genius of casting Giancarlo Esposito, because you essentially need an actor who can play character, who can tell Superman, I don't give a shit about you, and you will do what I say. And I don't know, like, if there's many actors who could actually pull that off. Because you have to really believe that this guy is so intimidating. He is making Superman crap his pants at the thought of whatever he's saying. And so I really think that you get the big guns to pull that off.
Yeah, he worked. But that scene marked the end of Homelander for me, as I think it should have.
What do you mean?
It was the beginning of the end for Homelander in that position. No, because I felt like Homelander went to his boss and was like, I run this town. This is my show. I own Vought. This is all about me. Blah, blah, blah. You're going to do what I say. And I was like, ooh, that's a little bit much. Especially since there's like a whole change in power right now. He's trying to like manipulate everybody into falling into his pocket so he can do what he wanted. That's why that he ended up killing her, because at the end of the day, she didn't give him what he wanted, and that justified him killing her.
What did he want from her, though? Did he want a mom?
He wanted a mom he could hook up with, but in the moment, he just wanted someone to not lie to him, and she lied to him.
Yeah, I think he had a giant Oedipus complex for that entire first season.
He created the super villains.
This is true. Well, that's
the
what
super terrorist.
Yeah, that's what I like about this show. It's like because Vought is seen as this all powerful company, but there's this internal conflict on, I think, every side of the story. And the one on like the bad guy side, you'd say, is that like Homelander has his own agenda that Vought doesn't. So he kind of like messes up their plans, and Vought messes up his plans, but they have to work together. And so it's this kind of political intrigue that introduces in the show. And Homelander, like, he's seen as I feel like he's a character who acts a lot on impulse and feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
And then Vought is very tactical and intellectual with their moves. So, certainly a lot of what he does comes to bite them back in the butt, and then a lot of what Vought does, it gives Homelander an inferiority complex. On, I suppose, the hero side, or for the boys, that's like what Billy Butcher is, and then pretty much everyone else in the group, they have like different agendas. Well, they have the same like overall goal, but like Billy Butcher, because he's so shady, he won't actually be truly honest with the rest of them, and therefore he'll do things that are surprising and probably you should talk about before you actually do them as a group. You know what I mean? Like when he was about to shoot, I believe, Kimiko's brother.
But he was like separated from them so long that he didn't get a chance to bond with her. So like her brother's death would have meant nothing to him.
She's still part of the group though.
But
and he still hid that information. Actually, I don't think he knew. But I don't think he cared either when he found out. Yeah.
The thing, like, okay, going back to impulse, both Billy, but mainly Homelander, have about as much impulse as a professional NFL player who has played for like 20 years as a linebacker. The only character I really like is Kimiko and Black Noir, and I think it's only because they have... Frenchie's fine.
I like Frenchie.
But it's like so many of these characters
He's a lover.
So flawed that there's no way that I can realistically see them being able to repair their image in a way for me to like them. Like, I don't like Hughie. I feel like I should like Hughie because he's like that sweet, sensitive, like, boy who just got swept into the wrong crowd. But even in the beginning, he was making decisions where I was like, anybody can see that this is a bad idea. Like, I understand that you're grieving, but... And your dad definitely didn't help. I
can see he just wants him to be safe because he doesn't want him to mess with like with Vought in general. But also, yeah, he didn't give the best parenting, especially when he kind of treated his like it seemed like a long-term girlfriend like, oh, she's dead, move on. Like he didn't give him any time to just
you can't get justice for her. Forget about it. Like, what? Who?
Yeah. He's like, okay, let's watch TV now, son.
Yeah, I think the reason I don't like Hughie is because he killed Translucent when he really didn't need to.
I kind of like that he killed Translucent.
I did not like that. Because I was like, that's like, when I said before that he made choices from the beginning that I wouldn't have made. Yeah.
You wouldn't have killed one of the most famous people in the world?
I would not have. And partly because I wouldn't have had the balls, but mostly because it's not a good thing to walk around killing people.
I think it's a survival thing. He had to kill him at that point.
Why?
Like, I don't think it was a choice.
Because they were burned?
Okay, so it's established that these people aren't the most merciful of human beings. Let's say you switch out the 7 with the Justice League. If you let them go, you'll probably go to prison and you'll get your just due and, you'll be tried fairly and all that. But, I mean, in this universe with these, like, corrupt heroes, the moment that, Translucent's free, tells Homelander just, like, cuts his head off and then just, like, throws him in the river. Like, no matter what, you have to kill him at that point.
Right. But here's the difference. That wouldn't have stopped me, because even if my life was at risk, I still wouldn't want to kill him. 1. 2, I know that there are little kids out there, or even adults, who are like buying into this whole, these superheroes are great people. And
that's the most of the public.
I know. Yeah. So they're out there, there's a kid or something that is holding on to Translucent, or who might have the same power as Translucent, who's looking at this man for inspiration. Like, this man means a whole lot to some kid or somebody out there. And if I were to take that away from like at least one person, I think I would, like, I don't know what I would do. That would be like the worst part of my life. Like, that would be something that I couldn't forgive myself for.
Even if he was really a terrible human being?
In reality, they tell you not to meet your heroes for a reason, people. I've never met Oprah. I'd love to meet Oprah, but I'm sure Oprah has bad days, bad moments, like a bad side to her where she's cranky and kind of rude. Or even Ellen. I don't like Ellen, but like, people out there love Ellen. And when she started to get besmirched, people were all like, oh, don't take Ellen away, I need Ellen. Or like when Oprah's show went away, people were like, what am I going to read? I don't know what to read. Oh, and then she was like, oh, I'm going to get my own network and you can still read the O magazine. They're like, I don't know what to buy for lunch or dinner. I don't know what tastes good because Oprah didn't tell me what to do. You know, like, there are people out there who martyrize. Is that a word?
What? No, it's
who, like,
not.
make these people into martyrs. And it's like, I can't take someone's martyr away. That's like someone taking Jesus away. And that caused wars.
Like, if you're Hughie, whatever goodwill you give Translucent at that point will not be reciprocated at all. The fact that there's a lack of fairness that you definitely know about means everything's pretty much fair game.
All right, but here's another thing.
Because he will not care that you freed him. He will definitely just kill you.
That's fine. Translucent died with a stick of dynamite up his butt. If he would have tried to get that stick of dynamite out of his butt, it would have exploded. Or if someone would have pressed the button, it would explode. There was no distance thing between that was mentioned. Like, it's not like if you get within 300 feet or if you get past 300 feet, then it will detonate, or it won't, the trigger doesn't work anymore, like you have to stay by me or otherwise it's gonna blow up. That was never established. So odds are he would have done something like taken a bumpy ride and it would have loosened and blown up anyway, or like he would have had like a poop or something and it would have blown up, and odds are he would have been around the 7 when it blew up. So they might have well just knocked him out, put the stick of dynamite up his butt, taken him to the 7 and had him at least like get blown up and maybe take out like A-Train or Starlight's bulletproof, but can she do heat?
But then Translucent tells all of them that who did it.
They say he has a son. Like, they said he has a son. So why did Homelander not think that he could have a son? Translucent has a kid.
They never specify if he's adopted or not, and it might be just like a natural born son, like,
right. So,
but at the same time, like, they say Homelander is, based on the dialogue, he is under the assumption that they're sterile, I think, that they're just not able to procreate.
Okay, so let's talk about Starlight in depth.
Okay. Definitely.
How do you feel about Annie?
Character.
Your favorite character is Annie?
No, I'm being sarcastic.
Oh, you don't like her?
It's not like I dislike her, but she's just not nearly as interesting as the other characters.
Oh, so she's like, you'd skip her scenes if you didn't think they were expositional enough? Not saying you have, but you would.
I suppose. Like, I mean, she's a bit one note. As I say that, it's in comparison to the other characters. She does have depth to her.
She does.
But like, I just don't see her as interesting as like Hughie or Billy Butcher or, you know, Homelander, or really most of the characters. She's presented as the only hero that actually acts like a classic superhero, like with a heart of gold and all that stuff. But they force her to kind of adapt to what the world really is, and so she has to kind of come down to their level, but keeping the overall goal in mind of what she wants to be.
She's definitely the character that's like good through and through. She's like the SpongeBob of this universe.
Yeah.
I don't mind her that much because I feel like she's just a normal 23-year-old girl who's like going through anything that a normal person would go through. Like, she's like questioning her spirituality.
Well, I feel like she's a child star. Like, what a child star would be in this universe.
No, but there are some actual child stars out there. I don't think she is one. She did pageants and stuff. So she'd probably be like the equivalent of a person who had like a couple of thousand followers on Instagram throughout high school, who like had like small attention or small town attention, like a lot of attention for Des Moines. But when you go to New York, it's like, eh. Even outside of like the fame and all of that, I think like the personal growth that she's going through is like just self-identifying things. Like, do I believe in the same things that my mom believes in? Do I believe that this is still right and that is still wrong? Like, there's a huge arc here about religion with her, and I think that's interesting because that's not something that's typically spoken about on TV. Like, I thought like their mention of like the whole Christian camp was like a one-time thing, or like when they mentioned that one preacher Stretch Armstrong guy who is like pray the gay away, but it's actually gay. I thought that would be like, I didn't think that was gonna go anywhere because I thought it was just like these people are flawed kind of thing.
They're hypocrites and all that.
Right. But it actually went somewhere, and it like leads into Starlight's personal growth. I thought that was interesting. Yeah,
I like how they brought that back because that's also like there are topics that are the classic topics that are touched on that are controversial, such as homosexuality, racism, and I think like they also touch on poverty and the gap in poverty with A-Train too.
Yeah, they did. I wish they talked about it more.
We can keep talking about Starlight if you
I'm
want.
done.
Okay.
I'm done. Okay, A-Train.
But like, so they present like the main conflict, I believe, the show would be whatever Billy Butcher's interests are against Homelander, because they are the foils to each other from a character perspective.
Right.
And so, because Homelander wronged Billy Butcher, but the character that we actually follow, the main protagonist, is Hughie, and the person who he's really after, who really gets him down into this world, is A-Train.
Right.
And I find it interesting how the main hero and his like major villain is like a side character, whereas the side character's main foil or main what would you say? Yeah, like
antagonist?
Foil. Yeah, antagonist. Yeah, that's good. I was looking for that word. Is like the main villain of the story.
Right.
And so they kind of just like mishmash these different like conflicts together that you don't get Hughie versus Homelander really at all. Like
we're definitely gonna get it more now that like Homelander knows that Annie and Hughie are still communicating.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that Homelander greatly loses some power before that happens. This conflict that we're bringing up right now is obviously something that's already been talked about probably like 3-4 weeks ago. 2-3 weeks ago with you guys, if you're all caught up on the show.
We're just not.
We're not.
Up to episode 3 of season 2.
Yeah, we finished episode 3, so we're on episode 4. We have 4, 5, and 6 to go. But it's obviously something that's been addressed because it's like a pressing issue. I mean, if not, then they need to hurry that up. I never thought about A-Train as being like the antagonist specifically to Hughie, but I think that's really interesting because then as soon as you said that, I started thinking about how A-Train blamed the death of his girlfriend on Hughie when Hughie literally killed his girlfriend. Like, Hughie had nothing to do with Porcupine or whatever her name is, her death.
Wolverine, but with side.
It was gross.
Yeah, I don't know.
I hated it.
Side spikes.
I literally skipped it. It was so gross. It like came out here. I didn't mind the gills that the Deep has. I thought that was fine. I didn't know why he was so freaked out about it. But we all have insecurities. But we
have to talk about the Deep too at some point.
We will after A-Train.
Yeah, the A-Train. He's such a. So basically, he is the main antagonist to Hughie, and he's kind of he really is what ropes him into this whole world and this whole conflict.
I agree with you. I just never really made that connection.
Yeah, I was like, just to build on top of that, you really motivated just to think as A-Train as this like jerk, and that's it. He's just this jerk, and all the celebrities got into his head. And he doesn't think of real people as real people, and that's definitely true. But they also do this thing where they give him this depth. You kind of know why. They show you his brother. They show you like his motivations with his mom and how she's died, and just like little sprinkles in there that allows you to fill in the pieces.
How does mom die?
Oh, they don't tell you how his mom died, but they do tell you that his mom died, and you get the impression this is this guy who grew up in poverty, which they state, with just his brother raising him and training him and all that, and it's like something that's taken out of a true like an actual superhero like trope. Yeah, that they bring into this and they give it depth.
They get picked because they know that that's a good story. Oh, this is a great story that will sell. That's why they picked A-Train. Oh, you were raised by your mom. I didn't even think about that. Because it's all marketing. It's all like publicity stuff. But I think it's interesting to have A-Train have a drug problem after he left poverty. Like, this kid worked his whole life, gets out of like wherever bad situation he was with, brought his brother with him, and the two of them worked together for Vought in this high level position, and now he has a drug problem. And not only that, but they give the brother who is like relying on A-Train for his sustainability, for his money and everything, and he is strong enough to say, I cannot stand by you and watch you kill yourself and then quit you know, he's like, I'm going to leave. I'm leaving. I can't help you anymore. Because, like, it has to be painful. But, like, I feel like so many people, especially in our reality, would be enablers because they need the money. Like, they have their own families, their own lives to think about. I know. And it's like, I mean, yeah, and then also they care about the person. But it's like, if you have to let your care for the person be more than your fear for yourself. Like, because he cares about him so much that he thinks that him stepping away and isolating A-Train is the only thing that'll let him actually hit rock bottom, so that way he can pull himself up again.
And I don't think he ever does hit rock bottom.
Not yet.
Or, I mean, it's okay. So he may have hit rock bottom in the sense that he almost died. Like,
I mean,
really
he killed his girlfriend and then couldn't take accountability for it.
Yeah, and then he almost just like died himself, and would have died if it wasn't for the goodwill of Hughie. And I think that was a stupid move on his part. Like, realistically speaking, he should have let A-Train die.
Hughie?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's probably like he still has so much of like a, as Billy Butcher says, civilianness in him that he's like, he needs help. He's hurt. He needs help. I need to help him.
Yeah, he definitely has that.
I think
like,
he's just trying to make amends for all the wrongs that he's caused. It's probably starting to weigh on him because Hughie definitely has PTSD. He has a lot of stuff. My unprofessional opinion is that Hughie has PTSD. I mean, he's seeing flashbacks. He hasn't seen them since he's like moved on.
You want to know the moment you know? Well, one of the moments that confirms this?
What?
It's when the ship crashes into the whale, and he just sits there inside the whale's guts, and he's just staring into the abyss for a good, 10 minutes.
He's like, I'm ready to die. He's like, I'm waiting for my second wind. That's a reference to a Billy Joel song that nobody knew, so that's why I had to explain the scene that they literally showed us 20 minutes ago. I was like, oh, that was Billy Joel? He looks so much older now. I thought it was a fake scene.
Never besmirch Billy Joel.
Shut up. We're going to talk about the Deep.
Okay, and then the most important character in the show.
I love how he just signed up for some kind of Mormonism, Scientology cult thing. No offense to Mormons and Scientologists. We respect you all and your choices.
Okay, so the Deep.
Yeah.
This character, I think a lot of the characters are interesting, except, Starlight's the least interesting, but I think he's one of the more interesting characters because you're introduced to him as pretty much this jerk, really. Like a lot of the other characters, he essentially is introduced to us as this person in a position of power who sexually assaults Starlight, for better or worse. And then therefore immediately you just say, bad guy, you take him off of whatever scale you liked him at, if you did like him, and he's just like this terrible human being. But then throughout the rest of the show, it doesn't redeem him at all. He's still not a great guy, but it's just kind of, you see into his soul that he's just this sad human being who is uncomfortable with his own body, uncomfortable with who he is as a person, who just was not qualified to psychologically to be in a position of celebrity.
Yeah.
And
real stuff.
He's really trying to become a better person, and he just can't. He just keeps hitting these roadblocks, which I feel is relatable to a lot of people who suffer through anxiety and mental illness and things like that. And then it kind of, in an effort to get better, it forces him to make decisions that get him deeper into this hole, this mental hole. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's he's also tormented by things that he doesn't want to be tormented by. When he told the story about how he started getting his powers at 9, and he was walking by a fish store or whatever, a pet store, and the fish were crying, screaming for help. They wanted to be released. That does not sound pleasant at all. That sounds horrifying. And if that's what you hear every time you are interacting or around fish in a non-aquatic setting, even if you're at an aquarium because you try to save that dolphin, I couldn't imagine what that's like. Because you come in contact with live fish, you can on the daily. It's especially if your name is the Deep, and then having whatever background he has, that they're going to try to market him to anything that has to do with animals. So he's probably always in the position where he has to talk to these dying or sick animals, or animals that are scared for their lives. I do think it's weird that he literally talks to them in English, though, and they just understand.
It kind of makes it funny in a way, too. Like his scenes where he's trying to like help these animals out, they're comedic. They're slightly comedic, but also sadistic.
It's weird. I mean? It's like I can't let it be funny because it's like too grotesque for me. Like when he offered to jerk off that dolphin. Anyway, anything else you have to say about the Deep? I don't like him. I did not like how he was sexually assaulted by that random girl.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I hope you get raped in jail or whatever.
No, like.
Or I hope you drop the soap when you go to jail. I don't think rape justifies rape. I don't think anybody should be raped, even rapists. I don't think that makes sense. I didn't appreciate it. I thought it was mean-spirited on the behalf of the writers. But whatever.
Yeah,
I feel like they could have showed us that he wasn't comfortable with his skills in many other ways. I also don't think they're that gross looking. I feel like if they were going to try to push that he's disgusted by his body or whatever, they could have made him like hairy or something, or scary, like gave him teeth. They have like those flappy things, but it doesn't look gross to me.
I can see it's gross.
When they start talking. When they were talking, that was gross. But that's not a natural function that gills do.
No, that's
just... He was tripping.
Yeah, he was tripping. Which, that scene was it was funny, but it was also like, I guess, I don't know, endearing, or like, I really liked how he was starting to come to understand what is his problem and, try to face that. Like, even though he's a character that I don't like, he's still someone who I want to become better.
Yeah, I root for him.
And he at least as of like the point where we're on the show, he actively acknowledges that he's done a lot of bad stuff and he wants to get better. And even though the other characters that he interacts with do not care because that he wronged them, which they have every right to not care.
That's true.
I'm still like, it's better than having him fall deeper into that hole.
I guess.
Anyway, anything you have to say about the boys, or are we good to sign off here?
I don't like the Deep.
I like his character. I don't like him.
What?
No, I mean, I like what his character is as a function to the show, but I don't like the character itself. Like,
I don't like him now because he makes me sad. Like, whenever I see him
but that makes him a good character.
I don't know. I don't like being sad.
It's not like this guy's like, I like sexually assaulting women and I'm going to be a jerk. No,
but it's like he doesn't even have to say anything. As soon as I see his face on the screen, I get sad. And I'm like, oh. Because his scenes are emotionally weighing. And I guess they all are to some extent. But it's like, I think it's because I have hope for him. And I don't want him to disappoint me. But I understand that the point of his character right now is to be an active disappointment, but a lot of things that are happening now to him are kind of out of his control, like the whole beached whale thing.
Poor man.
Yeah. But
he was trying to have a superhero moment, and then Billy Butcher's like, I'm just gonna drive through this whale, and he's like, my friend.
All right, we have been working way too hard today. This has at least been taking too long, so we're gonna do a part 2 later on this week, so be sure to subscribe for that. Yeah, we're gonna try to catch up to season 2, so we're gonna have like the new episodes out before Friday night, probably, so that way we can have an up-to-date conversation with you guys.
And we'll have it out at some point.
Yeah. So hopefully, yes, so subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, I've been Taylor.
I'm Hussein.
Bye.